Welcome to the April 2025 committee meetings of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that Council is now web streaming and its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such, all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Your attendance at this meeting is your acceptance of the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the April 2025 Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. And do we have a welcome to country? Who's doing the welcome to country? Councillor Ryan.
Just to acknowledge the country, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and the people from the Wiradjuri Nation. I'd like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and I want to extend that respect to all people that are here with us in this meeting today, no matter what nationality they are, because we're all moving forward as one. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. If we move...
No leaves of absence?
Yeah, no leaves of absence.
So just move on. There's nothing, so...
All right. We move on to IPEC 2521, conflicts of interests. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? Thank you, Councillor Kelly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have a conflict of interest on agenda item IPEC 25/26. It is non-pecuniary but significant in that I live within a block of the proposed development, and I've discussed the development previously to being elected to council with friends who live adjacent to it. So I'll be leaving the room, although my interest is non-pecuniary, it's significant.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. We're just moving on to IPC 2522, Development Activity Summary. Do I have a motion? Councillor Ivey, seconded Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, very interesting reading. Perhaps could I just ask a point of clarification, which is just an issue which has come up for me recently. The information we get there on DAs are approved, but again, as I understand it, if you look at the DA's pending or approval application is under assessment. I think there's something like 1,300. I had a look at the website this afternoon. 1,300 applications where they're under assessment. Is that right? Have I interpreted that correctly? And again, just to make sure that none of those applications under assessment are included in any of the figures in these tables.
To the CEO?
Yeah, Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Council last year approved 593 development applications. At the moment, there's 81 outstanding, and there's also, I think, 23 or 25 applications which are requiring further information. So, no, there's not 1,300 development applications outstanding.
If you go to the website and there is a box there called applications pending or something, I think it is, and there's something like 20, there's 25 pages of them or something, and I think there's about 1,300 in total under that tab. But does that include other things as well?
All right, to the CEO.
Yeah, and depending on the answer, we might take that on notice and get clarity back to council. But Mr. Jennings?
Yeah, so if that's the development application tracker, I will clarify and just take that one on notice. But yeah, we definitely don't have 1,300 development applications outstanding.
Didn't seem right, but anyway, thanks. If it just could be clarified, that'd be good. Thank you.
Any further debate? Yes, Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just if I could have a point of clarification on page 7, and I believe it's in the report, but just if we could have some clarity here, the single dwellings and other residential dwellings report that over the last 3 financial years, can we just understand what the other dwellings are, please?
To the CEO.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Chair. Other dwellings are dual occupancy dwellings, secondary dwellings, multi-dwellings, which is 3 or more dwellings on a block of land. It's basically anything that's not that single residential house.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Ivey, would you like a right of reply?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, I'll just now put the motion. Electronic vote is now open. And, yep, I've got to vote, yep. Oh, goodness. What am I doing wrong?
Councillor Butler's not working. We've got technical difficulties here. So you just want to show, I recommend
yeah.
Councillor Butler shows the hand there.
All right, yes. Okay, as we have a technical difficulty, can we have a show of hands, please? Looks like it's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. So, yeah. All right. To you, Theo.
It looks like we're having some technical difficulties where we can't see the colours of the votes for and against. So we might, if councillors are comfortable, we'll just have a show of hands for the remainder of the committee meetings tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, CEO. Okay, so if we move to IPC/23, Daisy Hill Estate, removal of restrictive covenant, do I have a motion? Councillor Shibley, and seconded Councillor Wright. Councillor Shibley, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's pretty, sorry, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Okay, any further debate? There being none, I'll put the motion. Electronic voting is not. Oh, sorry, we're doing the hand waving. So if we could just have a show of hands, please. 4. None against. Any against? No. Okay, motion carried unanimously. IPEC 25/24. The Renewable Energy Projects Update, April 2025. Do I have a motion? Councillor Ivey. Seconded Councillor Cowley. Thank you. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, again, I think that that table as a snapshot is just terrific. It gives lots of good information. It summarises fairly easily where we're up to with the push for renewables. And if I might say, I reckon it adds, can I just repeat my oft statement about the renewables? They're a good idea and it's terrific, but I did a quick sum of the capital investment values that are in that table, and they add up to a bit over $12,000 million, to over $12 billion of capital investment. $12,000 million are being spent over a relatively short period of time, perhaps 5 years, in a relatively small area. And I think that's, look, as I say, if that's solving the planet, that's good. But I say again, anything that our area, our LGA, can get out of the proponents as an offset to the changes and the negatives that are accompanying the some of the negatives that are accompanying the renewable development is money that we absolutely deserve. So I think again, I know the staff have been very good in working up the VPAs and whereby the community funds are committed and will start to come through. But if you compare what we're getting out of that fact that some bodies are spending over $12,000 million in our area, what we're getting is absolute chicken feed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. To be any further? Oh yes, Councillor Kelly.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Again, I think the table is terrific, but we've been recently made aware of a new mooted project, a solar farm down near Geary, the Boree solar project, which doesn't appear on this table. There's a fair bit of angst in the community about that. And so I wondered if we could just have a little bit of background on it, what council does or doesn't know, and why it's not in the table before us. And if we could just have some clarification around, council may not be the consent authority, but what influence does council have? And what do we know about Venn Energy, which is the proponent of the project and the provenance of that company?
To CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff last Tuesday met with representatives of Venn Energy. It's the first meeting that staff have had with this proponent. So the reason why it didn't make the table is just due to cut-off times for the business paper. But yeah, first meeting that we've ever had with Venn Energy in respect of a project called the Boree Solar Farm. We understand it's about 250 megawatts is what they're aiming at, project size at this stage, this early stage, and also a battery energy storage system as well as part of that project as well. So from there, where it's up to in the project sort of pipeline, it's at a phase that we call pre-scoping, which means that it hasn't been lodged in any capacity with the state government, Department of Planning. So what happens from here? The proponent prepares an initial scoping review of what the project is and a high-level constraints consideration as well. That goes to the Department of Planning for their first initial assessment look at what the project is all about. And then as part of that process, Council does get notified and asked for our information requirements that should be considered in the environmental impact statement, which ultimately, if Venn Energy take the project to the next level, that's the detailed environmental assessments which need to happen as part of the development process with the state government Department of Planning from there. But in respect of Venn Energy, we understand at this early stage it's a Canadian company, or it's got Canadian heritage, and also just a very quick initial look. They have a project in Victoria that they're working through, and I think a project in Queensland as well. They don't have any other projects in the Central West Orana Renewable Energy Zone at this stage.
Thank you. So it's not a renewable energy zone project, is it? Can you just explain that a little?
To the CEO. Yep.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as a renewable energy zone project, there's 11 projects in the renewable energy zone which will connect to the new transmission project, which just reached financial close earlier this week, or towards the end of last week. So yeah, there's 11 projects that connect to the new transmission line, and then the other projects that aren't part of the 11 as well, they'll either connect to the existing Transgrid network, which goes to Wellington, to the substation there at Goulburn Road and 12 Mile Road, as well, or to existing Essential Energy network as well. So in terms of the 11, we don't have the 11 projects all in our local government area, so they are basically across the renewable energy zone. The 11 for us on our patch, that's basically the Spices Creek Wind Farm, the Sandy Creek Solar Farm, and there's one other solar project that name escapes me, but yeah.
Thank you.
Councillors, any further debate? Thank you, Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just with regard to the EIS, the environmental impact statements, do they come back to council or are they publicly available? And I guess a follow-up is, who do we engage that does that, or is it just a proponent picks a company that does it?
CEO, yep.
Yeah, so it's not to do with council, so it's state significant development, and I'll just pass to Mr. Jennings to explain that process, and they are public, but Mr. Jennings?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in respect of public information, the Department of Planning, the State Government Department of Planning website, all project information is available on their website when the proponent does lodge that initial scoping report. So that's when it sort of triggers it to be an application, and that's where that information lives. In respect of the environmental impact statement, that's a process there where the proponent engages suitably qualified and experienced consultants to undertake those detailed environmental assessments. They're guided also by the Secretary's Environmental Assessment Requirements, aptly named, which basically guides what has to be in those documents and what they have to consider as a minimum. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Act also requires certain requirements in respect of form and content of environmental impact statements as well. So yeah, not something that council gets involved in, apart from when the application's actually in. We will get notified and we do undertake an assessment of those environmental impact statements, but not until that stage down the track.
But we still get the chance to review that, as it is publicly available. Right, thank you.
CEO, yep.
So we do put submissions in for projects in our local government area, but we aren't the approval authority. So we will have views. Not all consultants would we necessarily agree with, and I can think of transport and logistics is one of the key ones that we might have strong views because of our technical expertise in house that we can have. But yes, we have an opportunity to respond. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Shibley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, there was some inquiry from New South Wales state government for renewable energy zone. Do you think that inquiry gonna affect any of our future development here? Upper house inquiry?
To the CEO.
Well, for the Central West Orana Renewable Energy Zone, Stage 1, so the transmission, they've signed the contracts and they've hit financial close. So it's unlikely that that transmission largely, coming through Upper Hunter, Midwestern and Warrumbungles, and then us to a smaller degree out of all the councils. That would cost government a lot to cancel contracts. So it's unlikely that an upper house inquiry would do that. It may look to, and typically upper house inquiries aren't passing laws, they'll make recommendations to government then responds. So until we see that report and the government response, we won't know what that looks like. But it's unlikely that for this stage 1 of the res, there will be any changes given there's contract signs and they've started construction effectively.
Councillors, any further debate? There being none. Was there the right to reply? Councillor Ivey, would you like to write a reply, please?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now put the motion show of hands for the accepting of the report. Oh yeah, I better put one up too. Yep. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Hey, IPEC 2525 Draft Development Control Plan, Tiger Moth Circuit, 38 High Street, Dubbo. Consideration of public exhibition results. Do I have a motion? Councillor Shibley, seconded. Councillor Wright.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. The correct mode of address is councillor surname, not councillor first name. And I've let it go a few times, but councillor Chowdhury is the
Right.
correct way to address councillor Chowdhury, not councillor Shibley.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, councillors, any further debate? Thank you, Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious about the 38 lots and the development. I understand that there'll be some open space for potentially if there's families in those homes that are potentially developed. My curiosity is around whether there's good play space, it could be parks, or if the open space is, accessible for young people. So just wanting to understand what that might look like, please.
All right, to the CEO.
I'll throw to Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the actual 38 lots and this development control plan don't have open space included. The reason why the overall development of the RAF base, there was a subdivision that was done some years ago now, which created some larger allotments, and then also as part of that subdivision also created a lot which reserves the endangered ecological community area, which is basically in the middle of the site as well. As part of that process, the owner at the time had to also undertake some boardwalk construction and the like to make that endangered ecological community so it can be visited and obviously used by people and residents in the area and also on the site as well. So we understand that a lot of that work has happened, and then also that actual area of the site will also be under council ownership as well at some stage when the proponent, when the overall RAF base owner does release that subdivision.
Could I have one further question? Just curious if, again, is there, will there be some sort of public transport for kids getting on a school bus and those sorts of things going in that area?
To the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, not at this point in time, but it's something that we have regular meetings with Transport, and they are aware of it. I think they have currently ramped up our bus services. So as we keep growing as an urban area, it'll be something we advise them on. And there is, in terms of transport, the passive or active transport, is the right way they describe it these days. There will be connectivity. So those boardwalks, for example, suitable for cycle paths. You can't put a cycle path in the endangered ecological community, the fuzzy box, but that's what the boardwalk. So there will be this active transport and also connects up to the shared pathway that goes down the railway corridor down Margaret Crescent, and therefore linking you with other open space as well.
Councillor Ivey.
Just a question, Mr. Chair. Is it right, am I interpreting this correctly? We only really received 2 submissions from one from the public and one from the government department. Is that correct?
To you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. Yes, Councillor Ivey.
Is that surprising?
To Mr. Jennings.
I'm at risk of making a subjective judgment. Not for DCPs, it does appear a very technical document. So unless there's striking passions in nearby residents, it's not unusual not to be overwhelmed with submissions. But Mr. Jennings may have different views, or indeed his staff may.
Through you, Mr. Chair, also with this site, it's also good to remember that the actual subdivision has already been approved. People that do live around that area would have some knowledge from that process. So this is only in respect of the actual buildings that can happen and how the subdivision can be developed as well.
Any further debate, councillors? The right of reply to Councillor Chowdhury.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We can now do a show of hands for the motion. For, please. Against? Carried unanimously then. IPEC 2526. Development application.
You can move it second and then we'll have a conflict.
Okay. Keep reading. Okay, yep. 59 residential lot subdivision, part lot 10, DP 1119436, 2R Old Dubbo Dubbo Road, Dubbo. Applicant Barker Ryan Stewart, Pty Ltd. Owner Mask Group Properties, Miriam Pty DLCD. Do I have a motion? Would conflict?
Motion first,
Yep.
and second, then we go to conflicts of interest.
Yep. Moved by Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. This is where we mentioned that Councillor Cowley has a conflict of interest. Would you like to?
Yes, so
Chair?
I have a non-pecuniary significant interest, and I'll leave the room.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Black, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thanks.
Any further debate, councillors? Is that Councillor Wright? Yep.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions, actually. So maybe I note here that if this particular motion is passed, then the proponent does have the right to lodge a request for a review. I'm just wondering if you might be able to explain that process for me. There seems to be a number of items outstanding, not necessarily from a council perspective, but Heritage, New South Wales, Department of Planning, climate change. Can you just explain that process and maybe a timeline around that, or is there a cost for the proponent to do that? This seems to have been running for coming up 2 years now, so there's been a lot of back and forth. So maybe I can get a bit of an idea of that review process.
To the CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for a development application, and you probably may recall as well, early in the council term, I think in October, council considered a section 8.82 review in respect of a subdivision development at Kemp Road as well. So what happens there, a proponent does have the avenue open to them where they can lodge a request for a review of a council determination. In lodging that request, a proponent would provide new information or additional information as well that would basically, in this case, look to address the reasons for refusal of the actual development application. And then what would happen with any 8.2 review, just like this one here and similar to the one last year, it would come back to council for consideration of that review process as well. And sorry, last question. There is a cost involved. I would have to take that one on notice.
Any further debate, councillors?
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just a question again further to that. So I'm assuming the proponent then is provided with a pretty detailed list of the items that are outstanding. Obviously, there's no DCP on here either, from what I gather. There's some issues with some flooding, as well as maybe some environmental issues around Indigenous studies. They're provided with a pretty clear indication of what they are, what they're required to provide. Obviously, land and housing is a hot topic at the moment, and getting new land available to get housing on the ground is pretty important in a lot of LGAs, including this one. So, just trying to understand, how this sort of thing can be expedited to a point where we can see an outcome, or not an outcome, full stop, if there is not an outcome available. So, just again, that process again, a pretty clear communication between council and proponent as to what's required.
To the CEO.
Yep. Throw to Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, yes, with any review process, we will proactively work with the proponent. Like, definitely hearing what you're saying, it's a residential subdivision. We do need, obviously, to make sure that there's residential development moving through the pipeline for Dubbo. But yeah, we would seek to work proactively with the proponent. We are meeting the proponent on Thursday this week as well to discuss some of their applications, and we are very keen to work as closely as we can moving forward.
To the CEO.
I might just pass to the growth planning team member about interactions to date to get to this point as well. This isn't coming cold to them, so I might just throw.
Yeah, so as detailed in that report, the application was lodged a couple of years ago. As part of the preliminary assessment, the letter requesting further information was sent to the applicant, and to date, that letter, those matters that are detailed in that letter haven't been addressed by the applicant. There's been constant communications between the applicant and council to the point where we went nearly 8 months without getting any communications from the applicant, and it's come to the stage where those government agencies aren't willing to keep this application on the book because there hasn't been that. Generally, we do have that really quite open communication with the applicant, and you've seen it before where we have applications here for a year or two, but that's when the communications are open. So to date, the communication lines haven't really stayed open from the applicant's end, and we can't do anything further without that information being submitted. So we've got the state agencies, the DQ, so for Aboriginal heritage, and also so Aboriginal heritage, they've issued that refusal, and also a DQ for water management have indicated that they'll be issuing a refusal towards the end of this week or the start of next. So council can't make a determination without those matters being addressed.
To the CEO.
But what I guess that's somewhat looking backwards in terms of interactions today. I'll just reinforce Mr. Jennings as relevant director that willingness to be positive and work through to the essence of your question is we want to make it clear in how we can enable housing as well, but there's only so much we can do as the regulatory authority.
Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just again a question: are our hands tied? Council's hands pretty much tied anyway because Heritage New South Wales has refused the application. I mean, presumably we can't override Heritage. I mean, if we wanted to approve it, could we, or are we bound by Heritage New South Wales general terms of approval?
To the CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So Section 4.47 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, where a state government approval body, like an integrated body, has refused to grant concurrence, it does say there that council must refuse the application.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Councillors, any further debate? There being none, back to you, Councillor Black, for your right of reply.
No, it's all right, thanks.
Then we'll put it to the vote. All for, hands. And against? Carried unanimously. Oh, yes. Can we have Councillor Cowley back in, please? The next item for consideration is, it's confidential.
Yep, you got to move it in. So
read the script. Yes. So the next item for consideration in the Infrastructure Planning Environment Committee is deemed by the Chief Executive Officer to be confidential. Can I now have someone move to defer item IPEC 2527 to be dealt with at the end of the Corporate Services Committee in the confidential session. Moved by Councillor Wright and seconded by Councillor Richardson. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
And any further debate? I'd like to show of hands to move us into the confidential session. All for? And against? Carried unanimously. As there are no further items, I declare the Infrastructure, Planning and Environment Committee closed, the time being 6:05 p.m. Thank you.
We're just working through the technical solutions. Bear with us, councillors.
Working. I now open the April 2025 Culture and Community Committee meeting to the time being 6:10 p.m. Do I have someone to for a motion? Sorry.
No leave of absence.
No, let's do. There's no leave of absence, so we'll continue on. We're meant to be doing this.
Yep, ask for a conflict of interest just to double check.
Yeah. Can I please confirm if there are any conflicts of interest for the Cultural and Community Committee? As there are none, we'll continue on. Do I have a motion?
That's done.
That's done.
Keep on again.
Catching up. Okay. So I'd like to move to CCC 25/12, the maintenance and service level parks. Do I have someone to move a motion, please? Councillor Toyton, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Richardson. Councillor Toyton, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any
We have a presentation from staff or the manager for Green Space Operations.
we have a presentation for this one from staff and would like to call the manager for Green Space Operations, please, to proceed with the presentation.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Evening. I haven't had a chance to meet all of you yet, so I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Aaron, and I'm the Green Space Operations Manager here at Council. I've been with Council for a year now. My background is in horticulture, sports turf management, and I also have further formal education in urban planning, design, and development. And as mentioned, I'm here today to discuss the Public Parks Maintenance Service Level document with you, also known as a MSL. So what is this document? Simply, it's a guide for everyone. Our council staff who do the work, stakeholders, and the community who use the parks. What it does, it sets consistent standards for parks in our region. It helps us decide how best to use our resources, staff time and money. It tells the community what level of service they can expect in different types of parks. So the core purpose behind this is, and why do we need it? As you know, council manages a diverse and growing number of parks and open spaces, and maintain every space to the same standard isn't financially or operationally feasible. So how do we align expectations with deliverable service levels and ensure it is also fair and measurable? We do that by using park classifications. So the MSL uses a tiered park classification system: regional, district, local, and community infrastructure. These classifications dictate the maintenance frequency for each park type, directly linked to its usage, amenities, and our available resources. How that works is the MSL clearly outlines what key services are performed and how often for each park type, based on our current resources and budget. Another big part of maintenance service levels is managing growth. The maintenance service levels is the operational reality of managing growth. So it's important the community understand that when new parks or open space are added to our maintenance register, this doesn't automatically trigger funding for staff or equipment. We often need to absorb new sites into existing schedules. This can temporarily or permanently require adjustments to service frequencies across multiple parks until the cumulative increase in workload justifies a successful business case for further resources. The MSL provides the framework for managing these adjustments transparently and also in displaying the need for those business cases to occur. Just a basic question on what people may ask is, how do I find what my favourite park classification is? And park classifications are on the Dubbo Regional Council website, and there is a QR code and a link provided within the document. The other part of the document is obviously the benefits for council and the community. So it ensures consistency and equity in park maintenance, provides a clear basis for budgeting and resource allocation, offers transparency to manage expectations and respond to inquiries, and establishes a practical system for managing operational pressures from growth. And what would be the next steps after this would be to apply the MSL documents across all green and open space assets that we maintain. So you can see up there, it has the list that we would intend to roll out similar documents for.
Thank you for the presentation. Should we move to questions or debate? Does anybody have a question or debate? Question, I should say. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, look, thanks for that. One thing that I presume is pretty difficult to do is adapt to changing climatic conditions. In terms of, you know, if we're going into a drought, the resources and services and requirements are perhaps much better if we much different than if we're going into a very wet period. Is that an issue? Is that a hard issue to adapt to, or is it basically you need the same number of staff and the same hours of inputs no matter what the seasonal conditions?
I'll throw to CEO.
And I'll throw to Mr. Stuart White.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. There's a internal conversation when the service levels are being developed, and that's especially around how deep do we go into providing the community and the public information about nuances of what we do. So there is sections of the document that says what we aim to achieve. So obviously, in general speaking, we try to, like, the frequencies is what we align to. But if there's a drought and we don't need to mow for the sake of mowing, obviously we don't do that. It does have little things in there that says what we aim to achieve. So in the circumstance of where there was large amounts of rain and the frequency changes, it's all about reporting back on that. And that's the framework that we would utilize to show, you know, there was a drought or a pour with rain. We expected to mow 26 times a year, but we actually only did 18.
Further questions?
Yeah, perhaps just a follow-up question, or really, I understand that, but I think the point of my question earlier was that does that present a problem to you, depending on, you know, with the season, can you still allocate staff and responsibilities and under different seasonal condition scenarios? Is that, or really do you get to some seasonal conditions where we just haven't got enough staff?
Through the chair.
I might just quickly add, so there's a limited resource, but there's also the ability for the manager to call in contracts. So I might get to explain how you can throttle on as much as with different techniques, if I could, Mr. Stewart.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, as the CEO mentioned, we obviously do utilise contractors in heightened times of growth and when we do need to put that extra work in. I've never worked in a space where we're over-resourced, so obviously it's generally the circumstance that we are generally on the back foot and trying to do the best we can. So to answer your question, yes, we do experience times where we experience rain for 2 weeks and we're not getting the equipment out for those 2 weeks, and then you can imagine the requests and the CRMs coming through at the end of that 2 weeks of rain is high, and that's where we would do, as the CEO said, we would utilise contractors. We may pull some staff members off general duties like general horticulture stuff like hedging and pruning to then get onto mowing, that sort of shift.
Any further questions?
Could I just make
Just throw to the CEO.
And I think that the beauty of the hierarchy and what's put in front of you is that also is the triage of where we put our resources. So the higher ranking parks with higher utilisation, if there becomes a choice when there's scarcity of resources but because of weather, it may be raining all the time, well then you put more into, say, Victoria Park than you might put into, even though a power line easement is due for mowing, you'd use that triage and ranking of parks. Would that be fair to say, Stuart?
That is correct.
Are there any further questions or debate? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. It was a question regarding loose litter collection, actually, and I noticed it on page 17 of that particular document, and it just talks about, well, there's a line there for those regional parks about full-time staff managing litter Monday to Friday. There's obviously loose litter collected in other places as well. I have seen some calls that out there that council should employ a full-time staff member to pick up rubbish, and I find that obscene that people in the community, in our community, think that ratepayers' money should go towards picking up the rubbish of the community members who live here. And I think that picking up rubbish is a job for everyone in our LGA who has a little bit of pride in the city anyway. But so just a bit of clarity around that, about that loose litter collection. Maybe explain the role of that person. I'm hoping it's not just picking up rubbish all day.
I'll throw to CEO.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. As mentioned, it's in the regional parks, we generally place full-time staff members there. So Monday to Friday during their generic hours, those staff members will be carrying out all types of tasks. So hedging, mowing, weeding. Throughout the day, they're expected to pick up any litter they see. So rather than breaking it down into a very detailed to explain that, it's just displayed in that way. So if a member in Victoria Park who works there full-time walks past a piece of litter and doesn't pick it up, it's a conversation to be had.
Are there any further questions? There being none, Councillor Twinton, would you like a right of reply?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Everything was pretty well self-explanatory.
That being said, we're not. Yep. So we'll need to do the show of hands again. So all in favour. I declare that unanimously carried. We'll move on to CCC 25/13, the 2025-2029 Youth Action Plan. Do I have someone to move it? Councillor Cowley. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Twinton. Are there any questions or debate? Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really more of a comment on the breadth of the Youth Action Plan, and I'd like to congratulate those who contributed so much to it. I've just recently had the privilege of joining the Youth Committee and had our first meeting recently, and I was very impressed with not only the staff but the young people involved. And with this report, I'd just like to call out the fact that there were 290 young people took part in the survey, which is quite remarkable and is to be commended for those young people and also for the committee to get them to respond. It was interesting that one of the key insights from the report was that 68% of our young people want greater participation in decision-making processes. And I think anybody who's ever been involved with a youth committee or a youth council will understand that young people just want fair income input. The fastest way to disengage young people is to pay lip service. So this is a terrific report, and I just would encourage everybody to, my colleagues around the table, to make sure that we follow up with these young people and make sure that their voices are actually heard. Between some 1/5 of our residents are aged under 25, so they are and should be a force to be reckoned with. So, and if you get a chance, have a look at the "If I Were Mayor for a Day" responses, which our mayor should be shaking in his boots, I think, for some of these young people coming at our heels, which is a great thing. And I would just like to remind councillors that the Youth Week celebrations are in Dubbo on the 16th, which is next week, and on the 17th in Wellington. And if you can spare some time to go and support our young people in the Youth Council, it would be a very valuable thing to do and much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Any further? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Yes, last Friday night I had the opportunity to sneak along to the start of Youth Week, Battle of the Bands, whatever the title was of that, and thanks to all the council staff that put that on Autumn Live, it was actually, in Dubbo at the old Dubbo High School, and there was bands from Dubbo, there was a band from Narromine, and a lot of people having a lot of fun there, heaps of kids involved, and it was great that they got the opportunity to perform live in front of an audience, because as a couple of the people were telling me, they rarely get that opportunity around here. And it was a good fun night, and Dubbo Rugby Club was on the barbecue, and there was free drinks and sausage sandwiches, and a great night was had by all. So thanks to the council staff involved for putting that on, but also to the parents that carted the kids there from all over the place, and everyone else that chipped in to help out. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Debate? Yeah, Councillor Wright.
Just a question, actually, just leading on from that comment from Councillor Cowley with respect to Youth Week next week. Obviously, this document is going to go for public exhibition, and there may not be a lot of youth to know where to go looking for it. Just wondering if we're going to have representatives there at both the Wellington and Dubbo activities next week, so that this document can be, provided for the public exhibition or feedback from those youth that are there.
I'll throw to the CEO.
Mr. Arms.
I'm assuming you mean council representatives to talk to the document.
You assumed correct.
Yes, correct. Yes, it's a great opportunity. You could almost say that we timed it perfectly for that. I'm going to say that we timed it perfectly for that. And so we'll have staff there. We'll have copies of the document ready to give people and work through it and report back the outcomes to council at the end of the process.
Are there any further questions or debate? Before I go to the mover, I'd like to also add that I too have the privilege of sitting on the youth group, the council group, and it's absolutely very impressive to see the young people staying on the group and stepping up to have a solid voice. One of the younger people is on the New South Wales Youth Council, and that's quite impressive. And she's quite vocal. And we've got a few others, and we've got 20 expressions of interest waiting to be interviewed. And we really want to encourage all of them to be engaged in some way, shape, or form. You certainly don't want to turn away an opportunity for a young person who's put their hand up. I just wanted to give a shout out to Director Craig Arms and to Charmaine Mara for the work that they've done with the youth group and putting together the youth action plan. I'm absolutely impressed. So to the mover, would you like to have a right of reply?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've covered it nicely.
Thank you. So with that, could I have a show of hands, please, for And against, there's none, so I will declare that carried. So I'll move to CCC 25/14, Dubbo Regional Council Sister City Relationship Status Report. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chowdhury. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cowley. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm always big fond of this relationship between other countries, and it's really good report. And I think there have been continued few relationship. So through you, Madam Chair, which other one is inactive? If we can get some. Oh, sorry, it's on the report. No, all good. Thank you.
Are there any further questions or debate? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'd like to move an amendment, point 6, and it reads that the CEO explored a possibility of student exchange and enrichment relationships with the City of Newcastle Council and or neighbouring councils and report back to this council.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury is in favour of seconding that amendment. So would you like to speak to your amendment, Councillor Black?
Thank you. Just very briefly. So we see that there was a sister city relationship somewhat there previously, and I spoke to an eminent member of the community in Bob Berry who told me all of the history about the relationship between Dubbo and Newcastle, and there was reciprocal signing ceremonies and all sorts of things happened previously there. But the reason why I'm interested in this is that it'd give a lot of kids in our community that don't have the financial means to be able to go overseas an opportunity to go, say, on the bus, take kids over, show them around Newcastle, have a look at the university, those sort of things, get kids out of Dubbo that otherwise wouldn't, and really be an enriching experience for them to see that there is more than just Dubbo, and kids from Newcastle might be able to come out here, because as we all know, a lot of people from metropolitan areas, and I consider Newcastle and Wollongong metropolitan areas, not just Sydney, if they could come out here and see the tyranny of distance that we put up with, and a few other things in our lives that make it very different from them. If you live somewhere where you can get an Opal card into the city of Sydney, then I consider that metropolitan. So this is something that it might be good, might not be. We'll get a report back and see if there's any opportunities there for kids in our region. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Are there any further questions? Councillor Cowley.
Am I able to make a comment rather than a question? I would heartily endorse this amendment. I have been privileged to have been involved with a number of bush to beach reciprocal programs over the years, and the enrichment that both the city and country kids get is quite remarkable. And if we can facilitate that through our council, I think that's a very valuable thing to do. So there's more to these arrangements than an economic exchange. That cultural exchange is very important as well. So I would heartily endorse the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Cowley. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, I have a question to the China one, like Ujing. Is it gonna be start anything sooner, like any exchange program? Thank you.
I'll throw it to the CEO.
I'll pass to Ms. Moore.
Just sorry, point of order, Madam Chair. We're debating the amendment at the moment, and this is actually not
Sorry,
the amendment.
my apology.
Thank you, Councillor Dickerson. So good point. Yep, we'll hold that. And to you, Councillor Dickerson.
I just want to jump in first, that was all. I've got a point of clarification. I don't quite understand the component about neighbouring councils, so I don't know whether that means explore relationships with the City of Newcastle Council and neighbouring councils around Newcastle Council, or City of Newcastle and neighbouring councils around Dubbo Regional Council. So I just want to clarify which neighbouring councils, how far, is it just adjacent councils, which of those two? So can I get that clarified, please?
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. I'll throw it to the CEO.
I take that as meaning, in talking with Councillor Black, so you have Port Stephens, you have Lake Macquarie, very close councils. City of Newcastle is quite a small geographic footprint, so to get that same experience, it's talking about councils adjacent to the City of Newcastle is how I read that.
Okay, and the move of the amendment, is that what the move of the amendment was meaning?
Councillor Black.
Yeah, in case Newcastle aren't interested.
So, with your permission, Madam Chair, if the mover maybe just clarifies that and makes it a little bit more obvious. So if it is adjacent councils to Newcastle, then maybe reword it slightly better, because at the moment it's a bit ambiguous, and so it then doesn't give clear direction to our CEO, and then our CEO does the wrong thing by what we understand. So maybe if you could potentially ask the mover just to make that a little bit clearer.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Look, it's pretty clear to me, but to keep Councillor Dickerson happy, if we could, I'm more than happy to change neighbouring councils to, what was it? Adjacent, was it? Is that righto? I'm happy to do that if it'll keep Councillor Dickerson happy in this case.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Are there any further discussions or questions? Councillor Wright.
Well, sorry, just pulling in
Sorry,
to
we
get
weren't
permission from
finished.
the seconder to approve that as well.
Do we? Okay, who seconded it? Councillor Chowdhury, you seconded Councillor Black's amendment.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, it was only a maybe a comment and a question. Look, I'm happy to consider this, and I notice in the report there is no budget allocation for this particular thing, so this particular item anyway. So I'm assuming then that the report that might come back, the report comes back would actually detail the cost associated with that before a decision can be made.
I'll throw to the CEO.
So the asking a report back, that wouldn't necessarily mean I encompass that in that report. So I'm comfortable that's covered in the wording of the amendment.
Is there any further questions or debate? Councillor Ivey.
Just a question. As I understood it, there is, on the books at least, an existing arrangement with Newcastle, but they, when asked about it, said they didn't know anything about it. But as I understood it, we thought there was an existing relationship. So I just wondered whether whether 5 and 6 are, if that's the case, 5 and 6 are a little bit mutually exclusive. But I don't know. Is that not right? We certainly don't have an active relationship with the City of Newcastle, but I thought we did have a relationship.
Through to the CEO.
Past tense, so there has historically been one. It's safe to say in correspondence to Newcastle, they consider it lapsed, so no longer present. So I don't, in terms of the amendment and interacting with point 5, I don't see them as exclusive. Yeah.
Are there any further questions or debate? With that said, I'll go back to the mover of the amendment, Councillor. No?
Mover of the motion.
Of the motion. That would.
Comment against the amendment.
Right. My apologies. Councillor Chowdhury, as the mover of the initial motion, would you like a right of reply?
No, all good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Black as the... No?
No,
My apologies again. Okay, so because we need to have a show of hands, can I please have a show of hands for the amendment only? Thank you. That was unopposed. Yep. So the amendment is part of the substantive motion, so we're back to the amendment. Back to the motion, sorry. Is there any further questions or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the same question for that oozing. If we can get some update, please.
Through to the CEO.
Over to Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have reached out to the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade to get their best advice on current recommendations of travel to China, particularly considering that the students travelling will be under 18. We have been advised by them it will take best case a year to get back to us with formal advice, and that request was put in 3 to 4 months ago. So we have updated Wu Zhang on that and are currently proactively working with them on continuing a digital student exchange program to keep that relationship flourishing.
Are there any further questions or debate? Okay, Councillor Black.
Thank you. Just a question about the potential South Korean sister city. Getting a report back. Going off what Councillor Wright asked before, will the report detail any possible costs? Because I don't think we've factored those in. Is that correct? Thanks.
Through to the chair.
Necessarily it will, because we have no available budget, but I'll just pass to Ms Moore for any further comment.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, absolutely. The report will need to outline potential programs that we may look to run, what resourcing that would require, what implications that would have on existing relationships and the need to continue to resource those. So that report will aim to be as comprehensive as possible. That's one of the reasons we chose to separate that out as a separate report so we could provide that detail.
Are there any further questions or debate? With none, I'll go back to the mover for a right of reply. Councillor Chowdhury.
I'm good, thank you, Madam Chair.
With that, could we have a show of hands, please, for those for? No need to do against. It's unanimous. Thank you. As there are no further items, I declare that the Cultural Community Committee closed, the time being 6:39 p.m. Hand over. Sorry, that was clunky, wasn't it? We're going to take the whole thing down.
I now open the April 2025 Corporate Services Committee meeting, the time being 6:40 p.m. Okay, no leave of absence. Any conflict? Anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? Awesome. Okay. Okay, first item on the agenda is CSC 25/20, draft 2025-29 delivery program review of Towards 2040 Community Strategic Plan. Do I have a motion? Councillor Toynton. And seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further debate? No. I now put the motion to the vote. Can I have a show of hands, please? All for? Any against? Didn't see the hands. I passed that motion unanimously. Okay. The next items for consideration are deemed to be confidential. Under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the next items, being CSC 25/21 and 22, have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of Council. Can I now have someone move us into confidential session to deal with the confidential items? Councillor Chowdhury, and seconded by Councillor Wells. We have no applications for members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. The streaming will now be turned off and any... No, oh, sorry. Yep, any questions or debate? No? Good. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 6, 1, something. 3. Okay, done. Now, the streaming will now be turned off and any members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on these matters, with the resolutions to be made public. Please stop the web streaming.
play before we go to before we actually open the live stream. I think we get them up on the screen before we open live stream.
Oh, sorry, I've already put us back in.
Hey?
I already put us back in.
Are we live streaming? Yeah. We're up. That's fine.
So councils, we are live streaming. Just be aware.
We are live.
I now ask the Governance Officer to play the resolutions from the confidential session. We're done? Okay, cool. There are no further items for consideration of the Corporate Services Committee, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 7:46 p.m. Web streaming is now being completed. Thank you for your attendance.